Welcome. This is Digital Marketing This Week, episode number 20. This is continuing our series on Google Analytics, and we're actually in part 3 at this stage. So the first two parts, if you have missed them, so the first part was all about the audience, and it was figuring out who the visitors are. And then in our second part of this series, we actually went through and we tracked, okay, where are these visitors coming from? And in today's episode, we're going to talk about what actions those visitors are taking and trying to figure out what exactly is going on the site. So if you have missed those first two webinars of the DMTW Insiders, it's not a problem. If you have access to that, you'll see their full replays, and you can also find those on our blog as well. So no worries there. Let's go ahead and jump into the episode here. Of course, this is all brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. My name is Chris Mercer. I am a content developer and optimization expert, spending a lot of time in analytics and split testing, host, of course, of Digital Marketing This Week. And yeah, I just go by Mercer. So it's always easier to call me Mercer. Okay, so then going back to this week's focus topic, it's all about Google Analytics. Now, if you're joining us live, you can ask questions. We've got them in the chat group, and I'll give you a link where you can fill out a form too if you want to ask questions there about any of this stuff, Google Analytics or otherwise. But if you are not yet a DMTW insider, then you won't have access to the sort of after show where we do all of the, kind of Q&A, and I sort of come down off the virtual stage and kind of get with everybody and go over people's questions. So if you want access to that and you want access to the complete recordings of that, so even if you can't make it, you can get access to those recordings as well. All you need to do is just join DMTW, the Insiders Club, and you'll see the email opt-in form there on the page as well. So your goal from this episode is to get just one idea, to take that idea, to act on it, and then to repeat the process. So we've said this before, but especially true with Google Analytics, this stuff can get really overwhelming really quickly. And I'm going to cover a lot. So you're going to see all these sort of points of things that you can do and all these sort of new toys that you have access to. And your first instinct is to kind of go like, wow, that's cool. And then the second one you go, well, that's awesome. And the third one you kind of go like, oh my gosh, my head's spinning. And the fourth one I show you, you kind of go like, okay, there's too much here. So instead of going through that process, just kind of don't really choose which one's the best one for you yet. Look at them all, go through the whole thing. Don't really judge as to which one you're going to take action on. But then at the end of this episode, we're going to go through it and say, okay, this is the one I want. This is the one I'm going to take action on. Go do that, and then come back to the recording, listen to it again, and go on the second one. And that's how you can actually implement the stuff. Okay, so back to Google Analytics. This is our continuing series, Beginner's Guide to Google Analytics. This is part 3. What actions are my visitors taking? So if you're wondering to yourself, if you're thinking to yourself, okay, I need to know what pages people are seeing, or what things people are clicking on, or the order in which people are going through pages. That's what we're going to be talking about here. This is this whole section called behavior in Google Analytics, and that's what we're going to cover. So why should you care about watching this? Well, it's basically what we just said. You're going to go through and you're going to discover things like what pages the people saw, so what pages your visitors viewed, what order that they actually viewed them in. This is also important when you're looking at funnels. What pages might need your attention. So there might be some problem pages popping up that need your attention. And you can also use this stuff to find leaks in your funnel. So a lot of people think they build these nice little sales funnels, and then when you go through it in analytics, you can actually see how people are going through the funnels and go like, wow, I didn't realize that was happening. And of course, a little bit more, specifically event tracking. That would be one of my favorites. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Behavior, that's what we're talking about. This is the behavior section. So when you go to your analytics screen, it's this section right here. This is everything that we're gonna go through. I'm kind of, again, 30,000 foot view section of what this is and what these are. But if you have questions, it's not a problem. We'll just do it after the live recording here when we go into Insiders. All right, so let's jump in. First, let's talk about an overview. Now, the overview is always the snapshot. I'm gonna go ahead and bring over my analytics screen here. Okay, so we're looking now, we're in the live little version, we're in behavior, and you can see here in the overview section, and this is actually in the Seriously Simple Marketing site right now. So the overview section, as most overview sections are, so all the overview sections analytics, it's kind of a snapshot as to what these sections are. Okay, so you can come through here, and again, you sort of have you can do segmentation. You have your page views tracked by default, but you can change whatever those are here, whatever you want. And then you've got the summary data. So you've got number of page views, number of unique page views, because remember, a unique visitor would be just obviously that visitor, but that visitor could see the page view a number of times. And so that's why there's difference between page views and unique page views. You also have time on page, average time spent on the page, the bounce rate, which is the number of people who are coming to a page and then just leaving, and then the exit rate, which are the number of people who are coming to your pages and exiting from those pages. Now, here you've got your content. So this is just the basics of the page, and then the page titles. If you're using WordPress, this is where your page titles, basically your H1 tags or your headlines when you type them in WordPress. That's what's showing up here. And then you've got search terms. So if you have site search enabled, which I'll show you, you can actually do search terms. And you can see we've got some search terms coming through there when we're doing some tests. And then you've got event tracking, which I'll show you, and you can see kind of how the events are coming through. So that's the general overview section of the page. It gives you a real quick idea of which pages are popular and why they might be popular. So that's what that is. Now, next up, what I want to cover is behavior flow. So that's on that next one right down here. So behavior flow. Now, for this, let me just bring up our analytics here. This is kind of a cool report, and this is what they call a flow report. So there's a number of different reports that you'll see in analytics. There's ones for goals, there's ones for the audience, and there's ones for behavior. So you're going to get an idea of how people are using the site here. So what this does, and they all kind of work the same way, but what this does is visualize how people are using your site. And the important part about this and how you could use this report is think about funnels. So when you're going through your funnel, you want to make sure that people are using it in the way that you think they should be using it, meaning maybe they come to the landing, or let's say it's an opt-in page or a squeeze page, and then from there they go to the offer, and then from there they go to an upsell, and then to another upsell, and you sort of think that should be the flow. Well, what you might see happening here is when you come through, and you can sort this by all these different dimensions right here, so we could choose a whole bunch of different things. It's defaulted to landing page. So this is basically, let's say I wanted to see, and I'm just gonna click on this. I just do a left click, and I'm gonna click on highlight traffic through here. And what this does will show me the actual traffic of everybody who came through the homepage, which in this case is just the seriouslysimplemarketing.com, and what they did. So some people came through and they just reload. Basically, this is just a homepage reload. So they came through on the starting page. We have people that saw the website's offer. We have people that, see the difference between these two. Looks like just another page reload. We've got another 100 different pages they saw here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to group details. This will basically be a bunch of blogs and probably split test and opt-ins. This shows me, let's see, episode 18, who are my visitors. A bunch of people went there from the homepage. We had a lot of people go through our test funnel that we were doing for Digital Marketer. We did a webinar just about a week ago for them, and that's a bunch of people coming through there. We saw a bunch of people opting in, seeing the opt-in page. Again, seriously simple websites, how to write effective copy. So these are all the sort of pages that they have seen coming from there. So we can get an idea of what the flow is like. Now remember, for the blog, it's a little tougher because they're going to 14,000 different directions and possible posts, because this is a homepage, right? But if I wanted to know what most people are doing with my homepage, this is one way I could tell. I could sit there and say, okay, are people going to my opt-in? Yeah, not really, right? They're not really seeing the opt-in. So I can work on the homepage and say, okay, I want them to focus more on going to the opt-in thank you. That's what I want them to see from the homepage. So, and right now I can tell you that's not happening. I can easily tell you that's not happening because it's not showing up in the results at all. I mean, it's showing up down here in like the miscellaneous stuff, but we really want it to show up in one of these main topics. And because it's not, I know that people really aren't opting in from the homepage. So that means to me, I can go through and redesign the homepage to make the opt-in a little more prominent. And that's probably just doing a bigger image up top and having the opt-in the main call to action. Because right now it's not. Like right now, our homepage is kind of what you would expect to happen is happening. And I'll bring it up here real quick just so you can see it. But basically, it's just sort of a typical blog. This is made with Optimized Press 2.0. And so this is just the standard sort of blog format that Optimized Press does, right? So it's got all the different posts here. So that's what we need to go through and adjust. Now, the other reason that you can use this is you can actually sort this by different segments. So if you were, and we'll tie into this later with event tracking, but you can actually, with events, you can track specific links people are clicking on. And Google Analytics doesn't do that by default, but you can customize it so that it does. And I'm going to show you how to do that here. But you can actually click and say, okay, show me all the people who are clicking on buy buttons and what those people do, or what people that are clicking on my support links are doing on their pages, or how they're getting to support. Maybe you've got some navigation issues. This is a really great report to be able to see that sort of stuff. People that are maybe looking for a contact or a help form or something like that, you can see that here and you can segment it and then see exactly how people flow through. There's a lot of uses for this. So this is one of those reports that you want to sort of sit down and play with and then get an idea of what you can do. Again, I'll click on users here. As you can see, how people from different cities or languages, mobile versus tablet, or I'm sorry, mobile versus desktop. So you can do that by operating system. So you can see if there's issues with your design of your site or the navigation ability of your site just by looking at this report, and you can kind of get glaring errors. Now the basics of reading it, you can kind of see here, it sort of shows you how they flow from one to the next, and then the red is drop-offs. So this will tell you how many people left on this page, and then obviously it'll just sort of connect the dots to how many people go through. You can also adjust level of detail, which is kind of fun. So you can pull this up and show a bunch more connections if you wanted, and you can slow it down so there's just fewer connections if you wanted to do that. So this is especially helpful with higher traffic sites. But that about does it for our flow reports. So take some time to go through behavior flow. Again, that's one you want to spend some time with, get an idea, because whatever that says, I'm going to give you another one here before I do that, hang on. Whatever that says is what's happening. So if you see people going from, let's see, this is the sales page and I want them to go to the cart, but they're not going to the cart, they're going someplace else. There's a reason for that. And that's something that you as a marketer need to sit with for a little bit and go, okay, what's really happening here? So people are going to my sales page, but then they're going back. They're going back to the blog. Okay, so that means the sales page either created an objection that they're trying to find. It either didn't answer what they came to it for, so it's not meeting an expectation, or maybe it's just that the call to action wasn't clear enough, and the buy button was too hidden. They didn't know where to go, so they just went back and tried to find out the answer on their own. So it could be something like that. If it's something where they're going to the cart, right? So let's say they're going to the cart and they're about to fill out their credit card information, and then you see next to it is the sales page. Well, that means they actually went back to the sales page. And this report will show you loop backs. It'll actually show you when people loop back. So if you start seeing that, it's because there's something on the cart that is causing them to do that. They didn't give you the credit card number. They went to the cart maybe because if you're an e-commerce site, they wanted to check out shipping because you didn't have enough shipping described on the actual sales page or on the product page. And so they went to the cart to figure out what shipping would be and went, okay, and then I want to go back to the product. I want to go back to the product. And now that I know that, so maybe that's something you put on the product page that'll keep that from happening and can also maybe pre-frame a better cart experience. So there's lots of things that you can do with this report, but it does take a little bit of time if you're going through there and clicking on things. And there's nothing you can change on this. So this is just all viewable data. So you don't have to worry about breaking it. Click on whatever you want and, again, play with it. That's part of the fun with Google Analytics. All right. So now let's go ahead back and that was behavior flow. If I can bring my mouse pointer back here. Okay, so we're going to bring up our next one, and that is site content. Now you'll be spending a lot of time with this too. This is something where you're kind of curious maybe about what pages people are seeing and how they're seeing them. You can do that. So the behavior flow is great for visualization, but if you want more like the actual pages, you want site content. So when you click on this, you'll notice there's a bunch of different reports here. So there's one that's all pages. I'll go ahead and click on that so you can see it here. All pages will bring you a list of every single page that, in this example, all sessions here is what the segment is. So it's all pages that all visitors are seeing. So this is pretty much every page that Google Analytics can report, it will report. If it's been viewed, it'll be in this report. The content drill down will actually show you specifically, it shows you, and let me just show you, it's actually faster if I just show it to you. What it does is it'll actually bring you levels. So you can see here, they went from seriouslysimplemarketing.com. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. Then you can see, here are the directories that they went through. And then if I click on, let's see, if I click on that, so this is our members area, and I click on our members area, we can see the different parts in the members area that they saw. And so it's like that sort of stuff is what the content drill down will show you. All pages, again, shows you all the different pages that people are seeing. And this is useful because you can see automatically what your most popular pages are, just kind of everybody put in one big bucket, which are my popular pages, just in general, which ones are getting the most views, okay? And we typically go by unique page views because page views can be a little bit misleading. So you always sort by unique page views. We can come through here, we'll sort by that. And you can see obviously the home page right now, we got our websites offer. Next up was this, we saw a nice little spike on digital marketing this week for who are my visitors. right? So we saw that. And you can come through here and see, are the pages working? So let's see, our home page, people are spending about a minute and a half on. We've had 351 people enter on this page. So this is basically the landing page. This is the first page that they saw in their particular session. About half of them clicked through to something else, about half of them didn't. And then we saw about, which would make sense, about half the people exit on this page. So this was the last page that they saw. Now, this doesn't mean that half the people came in and then left right away. It could just mean that, you know, they checked out a few blog posts, then they went back to the homepage and they left on that homepage. So that's the difference between an exit and a bounce rate. A bounce rate would be they came into the page and then they left. They did not take any other action. An exit is that was just the last page, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't like they could have saw 14 pages before that. It just happens to be that was the last one. So we can see here, okay, this is the website's offer. So very low time on page, okay, and this isn't really a great looking page. So that's kind of why. We know that 316 people entered. We have some people bouncing, you know, about 30% kind of going through to the next, taking action on it and the rest bouncing off. And then we can see the exit rate. How many people saw this as their last page? And then we can do the same thing here. Now this is a blog post and it's different because we've got the digital marketing this week recording, at least for the everything except the insiders is put on here. So you've got the recording, we've got about 4 minutes average time on page because we have the little summary there. So people are reading summaries, some people are viewing. Remember, this is just an average time on page. We've got about a 75% bounce rate and about 73% people use this as their last page in their journey through our site. So this kind of gives you, again, an example of which pages are popular and why. Now, if we wanted to get time on page up, we could maybe do different things, changing the size of the recording, having the call to action a little bit more available on the recording so they can go and click the play button and then spend some time watching it. We might have some people going to YouTube from here, you know, and actually watching it on YouTube, but we could do a bunch of different things to help this. And this page value here, we don't do a lot of, we don't actually have values associated to our goals because we use e-commerce, but the goals, if we wanted to, we could say, okay, every time somebody opts in for DMTW, trigger a penny. And we could do that here, and that would be an opportunity for us to put some page value there so we can see how well these pages are actually working in terms of generating leads. So that's something that, that we could do as well. So again, that's your all pages report. Now, the landing pages report is a little different because it drops in just landing pages. Now remember, a landing page is the entrance. It's the first page that somebody sees in their session. So if I come to, let's say, seriouslysimplemarketing.com, and I view a bunch of blog posts, but I come to the homepage first. The homepage is my landing page. Now I could leave later, right? Exit out, and then maybe the next day I could come back, and I could come back to this page again. It would still trigger. It would show as another landing page. And what will happen is I'll be a returning user at that point. So I wouldn't necessarily duplicate in this new user's number. So it'll still show as I got 2 landing pages because both sessions, I had 2 different sessions. Both were that homepage as my landing page. And then one session, I might be a new user. And then once I'm a new user, Google kind of cookies you for 2 years once you're recorded on a site. And so if I come back and Google recognizes that cookie, it goes, okay, well, they're just a returning user now. So it doesn't show in this new user section here. The bounce rate, pages per session, is a little different here. So instead of you know, exits and all that, you've got pages per session and still average duration of the actual session. And then you can get a little more detail as far as the goals. So I could flip it into DMTW opt-in and see if we're getting any opt-in percentages. You know, we're getting about 4% opt-in rate here on the homepage, which is decent. But you can see here automatically. So this is my DMTW page, the little blog post. We have a 9% opt-in rate there. Now we could do better. We could go back and make it, again, easier. We could do, I know we have the pop-ups right now, but we could do, you know, more of a call out in the actual content. There's different things that we can take action on to boost that percentage up. But the important thing is at least we know that's happening now. We've got some sort of measurement because a lot of people just have no idea what's going on. They just maybe get a notification from Aweber that says, hey, somebody signed up. But in this case, we can sort of tell what's working, what's not. We know that these DMTW posts are now working better than the homepage. So the other thing we've got is the actual opt-in form itself. So this is the, when you're new and we're advertising on Facebook, we can kind of see what's triggering on opt-in forms. So that's the landing pages. Now, very similarly, we've got exit pages. This is the last page that somebody saw. Remember, it doesn't have to be, it's not a bounce, can be a bounce, but doesn't have to be a bounce. This is just the last last page in the series of pages that they saw. So if they happen to just see one page and they came in, it could be the landing pages, it could be the landing page and it could be the exit page because they didn't do anything. That's what a bounce is. So when the page is the landing page and it's the exit page, right? They didn't do anything, so they just left. But it also could be the very, very end of 500 different pages that they saw in that particular session. That's all the exit page is the very last page they saw. And you can see here, same sort of difference. You can get the number of page views it saw, and then which exit percentage it is, how many people are exiting on this particular page. So that kind of gives you an idea there. And this is an example of something that would be decent, because we've got a Facebook ad that we sent. This is for the website's offer, 97% exited. Well, that kind of makes sense, right? So that wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing because there is nothing else for them to do. This is a sales page. This is an offer page, right? We want them to either buy or go. Like there isn't a bunch of other stuff they can click on. And so those types of pages you would expect to have a high exit percentage. Pages like this that are the home page where they've got lots of clicks on them, you would ideally want to have lower exit rates because there should be a lot of other stuff for them to come on. But again, sometimes people just come back to the home page and they go, okay, I'm done. You know, they might check out another blog post and decide it's you know, they don't want to see anything else, so they move on. So that's that. Let's go ahead and move on to back into site speed. Okay, so site speed. Now this is kind of fun, and I apologize. I know that I'm covering these quickly. I'm just trying to get an awful lot done in this webinar, but at least to give you a decent overview of what these are. Now, what Google will do, I'm going to click on Overview first. What Google will do is it will actually sample your website, and it samples at it's about 1% of your visitors. So you're going to see things like this. So it's not like 9 people saw the site. It's just that it's sampled 9 people. So if you have a higher traffic site, then that's going to work out well because you get a decent number. You can actually customize this. We have it in our case because we also use other tools. Pingdom has a great speed tool set that we use. But in this case, you can get analytics kind of view of what's going on. And you can see if there's any issues. So it's done a little, you know, sample size, right? So it's got these little 9, and it's told us here's what's happening with the different browsers. So we know Chrome and Firefox, there's a lot of stuff loading up there. Safari and Android, you know, a lot faster. So something's going on there where we can sit there and go, we got some issues we got to take a look at. And so that's where you can take a look at, since we use Optimized Press, we want to take a look at our caching plugins and make sure that stuff's sort of working, see if we can minify some code. We can also get an idea. So Australia, they're loading up a lot slower in Australia and Singapore. So we know we got issues there, but the US not so much, probably again because of bandwidth. We can see the pages and see how they're loading. So which particular pages are taking a long time? It looks like this is it right here. So we've got something going on with our analytics page is taking an awful long time. And again, that could be because that's what was loading up in the different countries. You know, as people from those countries were taking a look at that page. That's something we could find out, by the way, if we wanted to check out our audience and go to our audience and see who was visiting our site. So that kind of gives you an overview. Now, when you click on the actual details of this, you'll see this very specific pages, and you can instantly tell, because it'll tell you in relation to the rest of the site, what's the problem child. You can see right here, it's our big analytics, who are my visitors page. So something's going on there. It's taking an awful long time to load. We've got to investigate that. It's very quick and easy for us to tell what we need to take a look at. Google will also give you speed suggestions if it can, and it'll go through and give you just some ideas. You just click on this little help page, and then it'll give you some topics. Now, some of these are pretty routine because it's just kind of giving you to the same URL over and over again, but it gives you an idea. User timings will actually tell you. I don't think I actually have any data for this view. This will tell you based on users that are set up, and we don't actually have users set up, but that's what that'll actually tell you. So the different users that are in there, we don't use that obviously, but you're more welcome to click around. So that's kind of the site speed. The biggest way that we'll use this is the overview, because we use something called Pingdom, and I don't remember offhand what is called, I believe that's it right here. So this is what we use. So if you go to tools.pingdom.com, and again, I'll make sure this goes in the show notes. For our purposes, this is the better of those. So Google Analytics will give you kind of Google's view of what's happening, which is nice. But if you really want to kind of get in the nitty gritty or work with a developer, this is where you're going to do. And this is going to be, I'm sure, horrible, but let's take a look at it seriously. Simple marketing. Okay. So you put in your website domain. It's going to take a little while to do this because it needs to. So I'm going to let that crunch for a little bit, and then I'll show you what the report looks like. But what I like about using Pingdom versus Google Analytics is Pingdom gives you very specific breakdown of what's happening where. So you know exactly what's going on. You can work with your developer to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and while that's crunching away, we're going to move on to site search. Now this is a fun one. This one I do recommend that you enable because it is very, very useful. So site search will actually tell you what terms people are looking for on your site. And the way that this works is, I'm gonna come back to Seriously Simple Marketing here for a second. If you come right here, we've set up a little search box. Now we basically just did this as a test to set up. We don't use that, but you could do a little headline, and we probably should maybe put it up here or put it up in their header. But here, people can search for stuff. So if you want to learn about analytics or whatever it was, you can search and then WordPress will do its little thing. So what happens is that those search terms actually will come through here. And you can see we just did a bunch of different searches just to make sure it was working. So you can actually come through and you can see what people are searching for, right? What terms are searching for. So here's an example of how this might be handy. So let's say that you are a big agency of some sort, and you have salespeople, right? And somebody wants to come and, you know, they need to work with, a mortgage broker. There's a perfect example. So you get mortgages, you want to work with a mortgage broker, and you've got a company that's got a lot of brokers on the line. And if I'm coming in for a home loan, I might come to your site and start looking for that mortgage broker's information if I can't find it. So I'll go to the search box and type in the name. And hopefully that will come up. Well, you won't even know if I'm doing that without enabling this feature. So you go in there and you turn on site search, and then, and I'll show you exactly where to do that. So for the view, you're gonna go into your view setting, and you go to site search at the very bottom here, and just turn it on. And then this part right here, how you find that little query parameter, that's basically, this is why we do this. So you type in test, and you search for something. And on your site, and most WordPress sites, they'll use S. You'll see this right up here. See that little S and then test? So when they do, that's what you do. So whatever your site shows there. So if it's, you know, search equals, then it would be search, would be the parameter. But you put in the parameter there, and then we just strip it out. We make sure it doesn't show in the Google results because we don't really need that to happen. So we strip it out. But once you've done that, that's what will actually bring you data into this report. And now if I saw people looking for John Smith or Jane Doe, we would see that information here and be like, wow, people are actually looking for salespeople information, as opposed to, we thought they would be looking for, how do I lower my interest rate, right? If you've got a blog and you've got that search open, even if you don't have blog posts that necessarily satisfy the search that people are putting in there, you can know that they're searching for that. So if we see all of a sudden people searching for how to design a landing page, or landing page tips, or landing page graphics, or anything like that, we know now people are looking for that, and we can start creating posts for that content. So that's another way that you can get really good insight as to what actions that people are taking on your site and what they want to read, right? So analytics is really, really good at telling us that. Now, as you come through these different reports, again, that's just the overview of site search. As you come through, you can see the number of visits that people searched for versus the number of visits that they did not. So in our case, very few people are using the search. And so if that's something that's important to you, you want to look at that and be like, how do we do that? Now, in our case, we would want to bump up that number. And the way to do that would be to basically put the search above the opt-in form and draw attention to it. Because right now, no one sees it's there. Let's be honest, that thing is buried and it's white, totally blends in with everything here. So that's not going to work. So we got to redesign that, put it up top, and draw a little bit more attention to it, and then you'll see the search visits jump up, because now people will at least see it. So that's one way we could instantly see what we need to do based on that. And you can also see if it's triggering a certain goal. So are people that are searching for a certain item more likely to trigger a certain goal or buy, you know, e-commerce results or something like that? So the other thing you can do, again, clicking on search terms, get an idea of what exactly they're searching for, and then you can go to the pages. So these are the pages that they searched on. So people searching from the home page, which is entrance pages, and then or people that, so in this case, we were on managing failures in digital marketing campaign, and from there somebody did a search, right? So we can tell what pages people were triggering searches if you're on a blog. And that's kind of nice too, because you might see that blog post we thought addressed a certain issue. Turns out a lot of people are searching for more information from that, which is good because they're taking action, they're searching. right? They're not just bouncing off. And you can find out, you can actually see that and be like, there's a lot of people searching for information from this particular page, from this particular search page. And you can find out what that information is, what those terms are, and then you can actually adjust your content. You can either adjust that page to make sure it's there. So for example, going back to the contact us page, it might come in there, but if there's a search available, people, or like an FAQ or a support page, you might think you have all the answers that people need, but you find on that little search box, people are typing in additional questions you never thought of. And so you can use this tool to find that stuff out. So that is site search. And I'm gonna go back real quick here to our web speed test. Seriously Simple Marketing doesn't show up at all. Excellent. Okay, so that's not gonna work. Nothing like live TV, right? So yeah, we've got 100% failure. So something's been going on. But anyway, that will, trust me, use this tool. It's fun. And it'll give you much more data than you can ever thought you needed. Next up, let's take a look here. I'm gonna go ahead and just move on. That's the best thing to do in times like this. If it doesn't work, you go, great, we tried. All right, events. So let's talk about event tracking. This is why I'm racing through all of this, because this is going to take us just a little bit of time, because it's important that you understand the power of events. This is one of those things that could be your one big idea that you take action on. Okay, events overview. What events do and the difference between events and a page view. A page view will show you the URL that people see. Okay, so in our case, like seriouslysimplemarketing.com. What an event does is it doesn't track the page view, it tracks a specific link or a specific action, let's call it. So it could be a click on a buy button. It could be a click on a contact us form. It could be a download for a PDF. So if you have an ebook and you want to track how many people are downloading the ebook, you can do that with event tracking. So this is where you can get really, really granular on what actions you want tracked on the website. And using that data, it's all gets reported into analytics, and then you can use it to segment. It's okay, show me everybody who downloaded my PDF and what that translated into for e-commerce sales. And you can see if there's a correlation between people that downloaded the PDF and the people that didn't, and how much the sales were. Or you could say, show me all the people who are downloaded the PDF and where the traffic source came from. So you can see what is the best source of traffic. But you would never be able to do that if you don't have your event tracking working. Right? And it does take setup. So the reporting stuff happens automatically. There's nothing you have to turn on. Like in site search, you have to turn it on. Events, you don't have to do that. They just report automatically, but you have to tell Google to report stuff. And that's where it gets just a little bit tricky. So bear with me here. I'm gonna walk you through a resource. Again, I'm a big fan of resources and tools. So this one here, again, I'll put this link in the show notes, but this is the gaconfig.com, this Google Analytics event tracking with dashes in between. This is a very fast way to create an event tag. And we showed you something similar to this that Google has for URL tracking. Right? So you do a little form and it spits out the code. This is the same way. Now, the way that this works, this is actually by Raven Tools. They do a great setup for this. The way that this works is you fill out this form and you put in your category. So this might be, actually, I'm going to flip back so you can see how we did one of ours here. So we have a category of timer. So we actually set a timer for, actually, I'm going to do this one. We'll do internal link. So internal link would be something where somebody's clicked on a link that's contained under the Seriously Simple Marketing domain. An outbound link would be a category of a link that is going someplace else outside of our site. Okay, so we automatically track those events and we've set it up to do that. The actions are here. So for our timer, we had a little action that was for 30 seconds. When they've been on the page for 30 seconds, go ahead and trigger an event. We also have the events. In our case, we set up the event so that it reports back what the link was. So it'll actually do that. And then we can actually go even further with the label. And this tells us the exact button that they clicked on, which is pretty cool. So we know exactly what the button was. And then again, we can get a little more details of the label that we used for the timer here. So there's lots of stuff that you can put in these three little sections. And then what you would do, again, going back to our little form here, you fill in the category, you fill in the action, and you fill in the label. And then if you want, you can put in a value. It's totally optional, and you can also set up goals, which we're going to cover next week when we talk about conversions. But you can actually, in the goals, you can override this value, so you don't have to put one in here if you don't want to. But let me show you what this will do and what this will look like. And first, I'm going to show you kind of where we're going to end up. So you see this top one, there's no tags at all. And the second one, there are tags. And this is just standard HTML. So this might look a little bit complicated, but it is just basic HTML. So in this case, it would show a buy now, and then it would be linked to examplewebsite.com. So when you clicked on it, it would just go to examplewebsite.com. But this bottom one here, I'm going to shade this a little differently. This bottom one here has this little section now on it, this little on-click equals, and then there's everything that's in blue. What this will do is it will tell it when they click on buy now, take them to examplewebsite.com, because that's what the link is, but also report back to Google Analytics. And what you're going to report back to, and I'm going to put these in red, you can report back the category is buy button, the action is 10-offer, the event label is bottom-page. So the category, buy button, event action, the actual action, 10 offer. So maybe it was like a $10 offer or $10 off offer or whatever. And then the label, bottom page. Maybe this link was on the bottom of the page. We wanted to know that. So that's how this data gets put into analytics. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let me just go into, I'm going to go back one page here, grab our link. I'm going to copy that. So that's what we're going to put into here. Give me just 1 second to bring this up. Actually, you know what? I'll do you one better. Let me just show you how to find it. So type in, let's see, event tracking Google Analytics. Oops, spell it correctly. It works a lot better. So event tracking Google Analytics. Okay, so there we go. Now, as you scroll down, what you're looking for is GA config. So you'll see it right here. It doesn't always show in the top results. So you'll click here. That takes you to this page. This is our event tracking tool. So the very first thing that they ask, and this is useful, right? What do you want to track? Let's assume we wanted to track the file download. So then you would say, okay, what's the category? So this might be something like ebooks. This is an ebook download. The action might be that it was the book about Google Analytics that we set up. And then you can already see down here, it's giving us the code. It's building the code automatically. Now the label, so again, this is optional. We don't have to put this, but I'm going to. Let's say this was all about Google Analytics, and then this was a beginner's book versus maybe we have an advanced book that we were going to sell. So we could put that in there. And then download value, we could put something in there if we wanted to. This would report $1. We're just going to keep it blank so that we don't have it at all, because we would assign that in the goal, which again will make more sense when we do this conversions next week. Now this little section right here, this little non-interaction, what this basically means is you can make it not count as an interaction. The default is that it's an interaction. So the difference is, let's say you come to, people sign up for your ebook. Okay, this is kind of the use case for this. People come to an ebook and they exit out of your page. They say, congratulations, you've signed, go check your email for the link. So they might close down their browser at that point from your site, right? So now they've officially ended their session. Then they go check their email, they get the email, they click on the link in the email, and let's say, hopefully you've got that UTM tracked because you're tracking traffic, but let's say they click on the link, they go back to your site. Now it's a new session, okay, because they've already exited your site once. Now they're coming back, it's the returning visitor, it's a new session, and it comes directly to the download page where it says, click here to download. So then you click on that button, right? That would trigger an event. But there's two things you can do. Here, you can either make, this is this non-interaction part. You can either say, when they click on that event, count it as a hit to Google Analytics. What that means is Google Analytics will go, ooh, they took action, so I should not count this as a bounce because they did something to the page. But if I say, and that's the default, so most of the time you're gonna want that. But if for whatever reason you don't want that, you can tell it not to. Just say, hey, ignore it, and then it won't report. And then technically what will happen is it'll just, if they go and save the file, like if it pops up a little dialog box that says save your PDF, and then they close the session, technically that will report as a bounce rate, a high bounce rate, because it's not tracking any hits. So again, slightly more advanced, I realize it might get you a little in the weeds, but just know that you can do that. And for the most part, you'll want to count them as hits because you want to track as much interaction as you can. And you want to report back to Google Analytics what's happening so you can see, okay, how many people went to the page and didn't do anything versus how many people went to the page and clicked on the button to download. You can track all that. So you can see here, it's already built our code out. So all you need to do now is just copy this out and then put it into whatever you need to. So it actually gives you an example, right? So this is the full code. So you put in your link to your download right in there. So this would be the actual link to whatever your download was. This is just an example. This is either the button you want to have linked to it, or if it's just text, you can, download my white paper, whatever you want there. And then the rest of the stuff is already automatically in there. So this kind of builds everything for you so that you can automatically have event tracking. And it's relatively simple. Now, again, if this feels complicated, totally cool. This is the stage where people kind of start getting a little woozy, right? Feeling all the different stuff that happens. Not a big deal. Just take a step back, realize you can come back to this later and go nice and slowly through this recording and try this stuff out. You cannot break Google Analytics, okay? You can't break it. It will report data sometimes that isn't the best data in the world. So you might do an event and then it doesn't necessarily track, right? So that's okay, because then you would figure it out how to do it. Or you might track an event and then you decide to label, you know what, I don't want to label it download, I want to label it ebook. Okay, so it changes the way the data is reported. Big deal. Try it out, get a feel for it, just practice it, call it test. You see, we do that a lot in our own. You see all this little test stuff. That's cool. At least put it as a test, because at least then you have it under something, test-download, test-event, whatever. Try it, practice it, get an idea of what it's like with simple links. And you can always go back to this event tracking code here and try different things that they have set up. So, if you've got live chat, you can actually track when people do events on live chats. Sometimes, just as a little FYI, if you're using a third-party service, these services, so Wistia is one of them. Wistia will actually go through and it will trigger an event whenever somebody hits 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100% of the view of your video. It'll actually trigger an event and report that in Google Analytics automatically for you. You have to set it up, you have to turn it on, but it will do that. And live chat systems like Olark will actually trigger events to let you know when somebody actually initiated a chat and when an actual chat took place. So you have those that you can track. And again, that's how you can compare groups now. That's what's powerful about this. You can segment your audience and say, okay, of the people who did live chat, what was the average order value between people who did live chat and people who did not? That's important, because now you can tell if live chat's really working for you or not. You can also track how many people are using it. You can change the scripts of the people that are working with that are actually chatting with customers. So there's lots of things that you can do that you can figure out from Google Analytics. So hopefully I haven't confused you too much. Again, part of this is just getting used to what's available in Google Analytics. Most people don't know that you can do this stuff. And this on-click code, this part in blue, this is important. You're gonna use this a lot because you want to know these things, these little items that are in red, these labels. Because if you don't know, if you don't label your clicks or your downloads or your actions, if you're not doing that, it's very, very difficult to figure out what exactly people are doing on the page. And what this will do is tell you the specific actions people are taking on the page. Okay, so let's talk about Adsense. And again, this is going to be kind of a real quick overview because we don't actually use Adsense, but I'll show you where it is just so you can at least see it. And we'll bring that back up here. Okay, so here's Adsense. Again, just overview, you're going to see a bunch of zeros here, pretty much nothing because we haven't linked it. So you basically link this up and then Adsense data will come through. Again, we don't use Adsense. We don't work with anybody who does. But if you're doing a blog with a little Adsense traffic, you can link your accounts through here. All that data will report in here and you can see which ads, basically the Adsense ads that people are clicking on. So and which pages are coming through and which ones working, which ones aren't. That will help you to presumably get more clicks on your Adsense, which will hopefully make you a little bit more money, and Google wants you to do that, which is why they've integrated that. I'm also going to move into experiments. Now this is split testing. So this is the experiments button here. Now, I'm going to caution you because Google used to have really decent split testing and now it's not so much. So we don't use it. You can see it's blank. We use Visual Website Optimizer. We recommend you use something like Visual Website Optimizer or Optimizely because it's so simple to create split tests with those. You can load up your page, you can change headlines and graphics in their editor. You don't have to do any development, you just change it in their editor and then you can run your test. But with the experiments here, it used to be called Website Optimizer, but experiments now. So when you go through and you do this with Google, you actually have to create two completely different pages. Now, admittedly, that doesn't have to be difficult. If you're using something like Optimized Press, you can just clone a page and then change the headline. But you have to create two different pages, then you set up the page here. But the way that it does split testing can sometimes be a little off. It uses something called multi-arm bandit, which is sort of a way of sending traffic to the test that is winning, and it adjusts traffic very, very quickly, which sometimes can be bad. So for various split testing reasons, which I'll just have to cover on another webinar, but we're not a huge fan of that. We like just having a nice, consistent, even split of traffic for a while so that we can compare a lot of data. And then that makes for a better split test for us. So that's why we really don't use experiments. But the benefit here is that it's free. Website, Visual Website Optimizer, VWO, or things like Optimizely, they cost a little bit of money. They're not super expensive, but they do cost, and there's a monthly charge. So if you're not quite at that level and you want to play around with split testing, experiments is a way to do it. It's relatively basic to set it up. You're just going to click on create an experiment. Once it loads up, it's going to tell you to name it, what you want to track. So basically be set up to a goal. So you'll want to track it up to a goal or to e-commerce sale, but mostly a goal. And then you'll come through and you configure it. So it'll say, what's going to be the control page, and then what are the different variations you want to rotate through. And that's pretty much it. And then it'll do its thing. So again, pretty basic to set up. It is free. That's the big benefit, is that it's free. But for our purposes, we like Visual Website Optimizer, and that's exactly what we use for our pages and for our split tests. Now, next up is in-page analytics. Now, this is not one of those things that's like, oh, it's kind of fun to play with, but we don't actually use it. So what this does is you can actually set this up so it will show you clicks and where people are clicking on the page. Part of the reason we don't use this, by the way, is because it doesn't work all that well, and it never really has. There's all sorts of people complaining about it all the time. There's extensions that are written for Chrome, so with those extensions, it works better. But normally you see pages like this that pop up. Now, in our case, we don't have it all set up yet because we don't have this Chrome extension because we're in an incognito mode and it's disabled right now. So that's part of the reason it's not working. But what it basically will do is show you your actual page, and then over sections of your page, it'll tell you what sections are getting clicks. So if our header was showing right here, it'd have a little box around our header and say like 15 clicks or 500 clicks or whatever it is. And it's useful to know that, like it's kind of useful, but again, we prefer using tools like Crazy Egg, because Crazy Egg is a heat mapping tool. It will actually show us where people are clicking. It will show the actual clicks, not just the number, but actually shows the actual clicks. Plus, it also does the stuff that in-page analytics does, and it works more consistently. So that's kind of why we like it. So we use Crazy Egg. This is the whole thing of free versus paid. Crazy Egg does cost a little bit of money, but we recommend in-page analytics if you absolutely have no other option and you want to save a buck. In-page analytics you can do. You set up their extension and then it'll start tracking reasonable data, at least to get you your start. But ultimately, we recommend Crazy Egg. Go to Crazy Egg. It does cost a little bit, but it's not outrageously expensive. And the data that you can get back, which will be heat maps, you can tell what they call scroll maps, which are basically, you can see which parts of your page are actually getting attention. That's huge, especially if you have a sales page, because you can see, like in Crazy Egg, everything that isn't really getting attention goes blue. Everything that is getting a lot of attention goes like red hot, right? Like kind of white hot. And everything in between is like a variation. So you can see on the sales page right away, are people, like you might think you wrote the best copy ever, and you realize that everyone's just skipping it because of the way that it's designed or laid out, or just people aren't engaged with the copy. And you kind of go there like, wow, okay, well, that's good to know. Really good to know that everyone thought my incredible copy was junk and are skipping it. And that's what Crazy Egg can tell you. It's a lot more difficult to see that stuff in in-page analytics because it's not really designed to track that. So with Crazy Egg, we get everything the in-page analytics tracks plus a whole lot more, which is why we recommend it. So that's the in-page analytics. And again, mostly we want you to know that stuff's there and what it does. We personally don't use it because there are third-party tools that are better than experiments and better than in-page analytics, but it is there if you so choose. So now's the time to think back. What was the one idea? Was it event tags? And maybe your time to, it's time to go ahead and play around with those. Was it just the fact that you can track your landing pages and see what people are landing on? You might even find that one of your landing pages that shows in your landing page report shouldn't be a landing page. Like, how are people getting there? And you might find you got a link that's broken somewhere. Was it the flow report? The flow reports are always kind of fun for us because we can go through and see the funnels, especially with sales funnels. We can see the funnels and how people are using them and see if there's people looping back and going back and forth or doing reloads. And remember, action brings results. So it's not just going through and kind of going, oh yeah, I want to do events one day. Practice events, kind of take action on it. Go to that gaconfig.com site, set up some events, practice them. Maybe they don't track the first time because you messed up the code a little bit. Not a big deal, try it again. You can figure this stuff out. I promise you. All of this stuff you can do without a developer. Now, super complicated stuff, maybe you want to eventually go to a developer. But all this other stuff, it's pretty simple to do. You just need to get just use tools and know exactly that they are possible to do.
Okay, that's going to bring us to the end of another exciting digital marketing this week adventure. So at this point, thank you again for joining us for Digital Marketing This Week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.